To survive, the human organism is biologically wired to preserve its energy at all costs. Yet modern human beings are the singular species that actively punish themselves for executing this exact biological mandate. When a person stares at a pile of unfolded laundry or a blank digital document and fails to initiate the task, society rigidly labels them as simply lazy. We assume this inaction is a conscious choice and a deliberate, malicious refusal to meet basic responsibilities. Modern interdisciplinary research across cognitive neuroscience, evolutionary biology, clinical psychology, and the philosophy of mind explicitly contradicts this cultural assumption. The state of being unmotivated is highly deterministic. It is born from precise neurochemical computations and rigid structural conditions, not moral failure. What looks externally like a lack of willpower is typically a collision of executive dysfunction, evolutionary energy preservation, and profound systemic disempowerment. To understand why the brain authorizes efforts and why it suddenly refuses to, we have to dissect this behavior across sociology, psychology, biology, and philosophy. By mapping the science of effort onto the structure of modern life, the empirical reality becomes clear. Laziness is an illusion. The stigmatization of rest is a manufactured historical paradigm. In the 4th century, Christian monks living in the isolation of the desert identified acedia, a profound spiritual melancholia that made reading, prayer, and basic focus exceedingly difficult. By the 6th century, theological frameworks flattened this complex psychological depression into the rigid cardinal sin of sloth. The internal struggle for meaning was reduced to a deliberate, sinful resistance to duty. This theological judgment was eventually weaponized by economics. German sociologist Max Weber traced this evolution through the Protestant work ethic. Under the Calvinist doctrine of predestination, individuals could never be certain of their salvation. To cope with this anxiety, they sought visible, material success through relentless hard work as tangible proof of divine favor. As agrarian societies transitioned to highly regulated factories during the Industrial Revolution, this religious imperative merged perfectly with the need for a continuously active workforce. Continuous economic productivity was permanently enshrined as the ultimate measure of human worth. The moral accusation of laziness became a reliable tool utilized by ruling classes to enforce labor compliance and justify extreme exploitation. Modern societies enforce this compliance without explicit violence. Philosopher Michel Foucault argued that control is maintained through pervasive, normalized discipline. The ultimate expression is the panopticon, a continuous surveillance model forcing individuals to internalize norms. The corporate environment is its modern extension. Driven by digital metrics, individuals constantly discipline their own need for rest to avoid the economic punishment of being perceived as idle. Karl Marx provided a structural explanation for the psychological collapse caused by this system, known as the theory of alienation. Marx argued that reducing human life activity to coerced, repetitive toil estranges the worker from their Gattungswesen, or species being. Their labor serves exclusively to enrich an opposing force, severing any meaningful connection to the act of creation. Environments lacking autonomy reliably predict high levels of disengagement. The supposedly lazy employee is an organism responding appropriately to a structure that extracts their physical energy while systematically starving their psychological agency. The legacy of this discipline persists in how we evaluate ourselves. Social psychologist Devin Price defines this as the laziness lie, the belief that worth equals productivity, that there is perpetually more work and you must ignore your exhaustion. Clinical psychology draws a hard line between a malicious refusal to work and neurological executive dysfunction. A lazy individual possesses the total capacity to act but refuses. Executive dysfunction means an individual deeply desires to act but experiences a paralyzing mental block. This paralysis occurs in the prefrontal cortex. Overwhelmed by cognitive load, the brain's project manager loses the ability to execute sequences. In ADHD, severe dopamine dysregulation makes it neurologically impossible to initiate non-stimulating tasks, regardless of the anxiety the individual feels. Major depressive disorder induces psychomotor retardation. The brain physically slows down its cognitive processing and entirely halts the anticipation of rewards. We can even measure the biological footprint of occupational burnout through objective clinical biomarkers. This chart plots the exact physiological toll of chronic stress, displaying a spiking cortisol trend overlaid with deeply suppressed heart rate variability. Prolonged sympathetic nervous system overactivity creates severe cortisol toxicity. This chemical flood actively suppresses prefrontal cortex functioning. The organism is biologically suspended. What looks like chronic inaction is a measurable medical failure of the brain's initiation circuitry. To understand why that initiation fails, we have to look at how the brain mathematically generates drive. Historically, dopamine was misunderstood as a simple chemical reward for receiving pleasure. Contemporary neuroscience defines dopamine strictly as a signal of expected reward value and reward prediction error. It fires before the reward is received. The architecture of human motivation originates deep within the midbrain, specifically within a region called the ventral tegmental area, or VTA. The VTA projects dopamine outward through two highly specialized circuits. The mesolimbic pathway handles reward anticipation and emotional learning. The mesocortical pathway connects the VTA to the cerebral cortex. This circuit encodes the relative value of a reward and is required for maintaining goal-directed executive control. Together, these pathways govern effort-based decision-making. The anterior cingulate cortex computes the net value of an action, actively discounting expected reward by the exact physical or cognitive effort required. If the energetic cost is too high, the motor sequence shuts down entirely. The brain also calculates the opportunity cost of time, the precise amount of potential reward lost per second if no action is taken. When an individual perceives their environment as hostile or structurally rigged to provide no rewards, the opportunity cost drops. The central nervous system responds by globally withdrawing both cognitive and physical resources. Apathy is not an error in the system. It is the brain successfully executing an ancient evolutionary mandate to mathematically optimize energy expenditure when the environment dictates that the effort is useless. Even with flawless neurochemistry, human beings require a telos, an orientation toward a final end or purpose to sustain continuous action. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl observed that modern humans, stripped of rigid animal instincts and binding ancient traditions, frequently fall into an existential vacuum, a terminal crisis of meaninglessness and behavioral stagnation. Philosophers vehemently debated the nature of this stagnation. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that blaming biology or circumstance for inaction was an act of bad faith, a cowardly rejection of radical freedom. Conversely, Nietzsche viewed laziness as active nihilism, a retreat from the discomfort required for self-mastery. The emerging field of neurophilosophy resolves this tension between strict biological determinism and abstract human agency. This timeline chart illustrates the readiness potential discovered by neuroscientist Benjamin Libet. It shows neural activity spiking to initiate motor preparation milliseconds before the subject is consciously aware of their decision to act. Acknowledging that deterministic causal mechanics initiate behavior refines moral responsibility. We hold people accountable to maintain a functioning social community, not because the human brain is magically exempt from physics. Demanding constant productivity from an individual suffering from an existential vacuum, severe structural alienation, or a depleted anterior cingulate cortex is empirically unsound. We must extend profound structural empathy toward the paralyzed mind. You cannot summon human drive through moral command or punitive discipline. Sustained motivation is the natural, inevitable byproduct of a healthy neurobiological system operating within an autonomous and deeply meaningful environment.